Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Hawley, my name is Noel Lofgren, and on behalf of Education Minnesota Hawley, we proudly welcome you to the 2016 Hawley School Board Open Forum. Just a reminder that the general election will be held on Tuesday, November 8th, and these 6 gentlemen are running for the 4 open school board seats. And the gentlemen are Mr. Eric Card, Mr. Scott Groney, Mr. Wayne Jorgensen, Mr. Steve Olson, Mr. Mark Saline, and Mr. Paul Thompson. Let's hear it for these 6 candidates. And I'd like to turn the reins over to our forum moderator this evening. This individual needs a little introduction. He's been a reporter at WDOY-TV since 1983, and he's the Vining, Minnesota native. His series and documentary work have brought him to just about every corner of the globe. He is an Emmy and Edward R. Morrow Award recipient. Let's give a warm Hawley welcome to Mr. Kevin Walden.
Thank you. Well, it's not like the debates you watch on TV. We're low-key. I see we have law enforcement here, but I've heard nothing about crazy emails or hats that say, make Hawley great again. So I think we're good. We'll draw names, and we have kind of a system down here for the question and answer. So we'll begin with that. Thank you all for coming, by the way. Question number 1 is, please explain what motivated you to run for the Hawley School Board position, as well as one thing you would like to see changed at 150, and how you propose to improve upon it. Scott, if you want to go first.
Certainly, thank you. I guess my journey that got me to where I am, sitting on this stage, has developed over the years, mainly because of some frustrations that I've experienced or I've had with some of our teachers, some of our administrators, some of our coaches. And I actually had a chance this past summer to sit down with a couple of them, and we honestly had a very good dialogue. I think that by the end of it was, I felt was fairly honest. But the outcome of that actually led my frustrations to more disappointment, I guess, than anything else. And it was their recommendation during the course of that conversation that I read a couple of the policies. So I did that. I read the policies that they suggested, which ultimately led me to read all the policies for the Hawley School District. And then what I found, there was some positive things in there, and there was some things that I thought actually needed some improvement. So what I realized while reading that was we're not going to change anything at that level, at the coaching level or at the teaching level. It actually has to be changed at the board level, and the board has to set that direction to our superintendent on how we want that school, how we want the school and our programs ran. So ultimately, that's what led me to where I'm at. What ultimately caused me to file was actually driving out west to a project site of mine, and the 970, I think it was interviewing this elderly gentleman on the radio, and I don't remember what the conversation was about, but he made a simple statement that kind of stuck. He said, "You either have a seat at the table or you're the meal." And with that, I went home, talked to Lynn, and I decided that it was probably time to make a commitment myself. So that's how I ended up here.
All right, thank you, Scott. Wayne?
Hi, I guess what got me interested in being on the school board was moving back out to Hawley, a town where I grew up and went to school and graduated. And I had a need to do more service. Most of my life adult life has been spent in service of some sort or another, from my military career, my law enforcement career, and I still serve in a law enforcement venue as a contractor for the U.S. Marshals. But I started on the school board as a volunteer. I volunteered to be appointed when one of the board members resigned back in 2006. And I thought about it, and what could I do, or would I do a good enough job to, because I had no idea what it was like to be in the school board. I had attended a few school board meetings and things over the years, and they had a tendency to be sometimes very contentious, especially when there was a bond referendum or something like that going. And I knew that wasn't the way that it should be, and that I could be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. Consider myself to be very thoughtful, even-handed, and I wanted to serve. As far as what I would want to change in Hawley, I don't see myself as being an agent of change. I see myself as being an agent of stability, and I've been proud to have presented that all the time that I've been on the board, and that's what I want to continue to be. I think the district always needs a little bit of tweaking, but it doesn't need drastic change as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks, Wayne. Steve?
What ultimately led me to apply again is I've been on the board for 6 years. My first appointment was by appointment, like Wayne said, I was also appointed. Asked to be on it, I thought about it for quite a while before I accepted it, wondering if I could make change or not change, but just see what would happen. I looked into it, so I've done it for 6 years. The other thing is I've seen a lot of success in this school district. I've seen a lot of growth in this school district. We just had a big referendum, and hats off to our community because it supported that referendum by 90%. That says something for our whole community, it says something for our staff, administration, and board. As far as changing, I'm kind of like Wayne. I think things are going pretty good. You still have to be able to change and adapt with times. I mean, everything's changing from technology, and you have to be able to adjust to that. But that's between administration and staff, and I think they're doing a wonderful job as far as that goes. The other reason I run is I'm a team player. Not everybody's going to agree on the board, and that's the way it's supposed to be. You have to have differing opinions, coming from different walks of life, basically. And I can do that, and like I said, I'm a team player as far as that goes.
Thanks, Steve. Mark?
Thanks, Kevin, for coming out tonight and hosting, and thanks EMH and all the other teachers that put this together. It's a very good idea, so you guys get to know who we are. The number one reason why I'm running for school board is because I enjoy it. I've been on the board for 11 years. I'm working with some great people, like Steve mentions. We were a great team together. We get together. Yeah, we have some differing opinions, but we're able to sit down and work them out. Our administrative staff that we work with, which gives us the information that we need to make an educated decision for the best interest of our district, is excellent. Our community is, in my opinion, is probably a shining star in our region because of our district and our facilities. And going back to what Wayne had to say is that when you're a part of a community, it's very important to me that you give back. And what a better way to give back than the front porch of your town is your school district. I mean, this is something that is very special to me. I grew up here. I come through this system and watched it evolve and the successes that this district has had. And it makes me very proud. As far as things that we need to change, being a part of a board of anything, but especially a school district, our board's mantra since my tenure has always been to be proactive. So there's always change going on. It might be subtle, but then if there's some major thing that comes up, then we gotta do a little more due diligent work and educate our community. But as far as change, it's constantly changing. If we don't change, we become stagnant. And if we become stagnant, then our students want to go elsewhere, and that's what we don't want. So with that, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Paul?
Just like Mark mentioned, I'd like to thank Mr. Lofgren, Mr. Gunkelman, and Mr. Walden for taking a night out of your busy schedule. I guess the biggest thing that got me to think about running was I'm actually pretty proud of the community we live in here. And what's the big, like Mark mentioned, the shining star of the community is the school. We're pretty lucky. takes good pride in the school. We get a lot of support from a lot of people outside of the school. And I have to agree with these guys too. We have one of the best systems around. We have the great facilities, we have the great staff, we have the great office personnel. It all just comes into one big bundle. I guess I just wanted to do my part to try and keep that trend going. So that's why I threw my name in. It's not a bad thing to have a new face here and there. Everybody looks at things a little bit different. Good ideas, bad ideas, put them all together and good things come out of that. One of the things that I'd like to see would probably be maybe work on communication between the buildings a little bit more. Make sure everybody's on the same page, and that includes teachers, staff, administration, the board, community. If you got questions, ask. That's the only way you're gonna find out. And if you don't know, maybe somebody else does, speak up. Don't be afraid to say what's on your mind. And if we don't have an answer, we'll find an answer. Just transparent. Nothing to hide. Everybody knows who we are, everybody knows where we live, everybody knows where we hang out. Ask. Don't be scared. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Eric?
Thank everybody for showing up tonight. My motivation to run for school board was brought on by the need for fresh ideas. From time to time, there's a need for a changing of the guard. Any elected position should be filled by people who are willing to go the extra mile to do what needs to be done, and I am one of those persons. One thing I like to change at the Hawley School is giving extracurricular programs more support. Education is more than classroom learning. Education happens all day long in the classroom, in the halls, on the playground, in art, music, and yes, even in sports. Our children are learning vital life lessons, and we're supposed to be preparing them for their future. How are our children supposed to learn about the real world when we no longer reward hard work, we no longer reward extra effort? We have put more emphasis on what's fair, and that it's okay to simply show up, put forth just enough effort, and to be rewarded the same. It's a disservice to our children, it's a disservice to our school, and it's a disservice to our future. We need to set a high standard of achievement and show our children that through their hard work, their goals can be achieved.
Thank you, Eric. We'll go on to the second question. We'll draw the first speaker. Mr. Card, you can go first.
Can I have the question?
Oh, I guess, yeah, I thought you had ESP, sorry. It kind of touches on, actually, on what you just spoke about. Hawley schools are known for their academics as well as athletics. What enhancements or specific changes do you propose for extra and co-curricular activities?
Like I said, I believe that education happens more than in just a classroom. We as a school system need to see the value in various forms of education. Extra and co-curricular activities are an important way to motivate students and support students' dreams. If we have a student who dreams of music, art, or sports, we need to support those dreams. We built an amazing field house and have been able to open more possibilities for younger students to participate in sports, but we could be doing more for the individual students who are motivated to work harder to realize their dreams. Opening the field house or the high school earlier in the morning for students who want to come in early to go that extra mile needs to be a realization. We need to find a way to say yes instead of saying no when students want to use the facilities that we built for them.
All right, Scott, I'll repeat it. Hawley schools known for their academics as well as their athletics. What enhancements or specific changes do you propose for extra and co-curricular activities?
I agree with a lot of what Eric said, and I do think that there's a lot of bang for our buck here as it relates to getting the community and the school on the same page. Everybody likes winning programs, and it just kind of trickle feeds down from the community to the students to the teachers. But as it relates to what I would change, I think I would take policy 625, and I'd like to add some words in there. I'd like to add the words as it relates to coaching, maybe sustain, mentor. I'd also like to see or hold our head coaches responsible for their programs. But to do that, we have to be able to backstop them or support them as it relates to an activities director, administrator, or a school board itself. And then I'd like to see some detailed verbiage around what our expectations around those coaches are. I think we need to make sure that they demonstrate respect for all their participants or all their students. They got to be able to mentor. They got to be firm but fair. So we got to change some verbiage around that. But more importantly, I think we got to throw something in there that requires them to demonstrate ownership of the program, and maybe that's a parent meeting for whatever program they're involved with. One day a month, the month prior to the season, during the season, or after the season. They probably stand up on this stage or in the library and take ownership of their program and tell them, let's talk about our athletes, let's talk about what's going right, let's talk about what's going wrong, let's talk about what we got to work on, and then give the parents a chance to ask questions and answers.
All right, Wayne?
Well, I guess I'm really proud of our district members and employees, because they are the driving source for how we approach all these different activities, and they're based on the things that we need to do. There is no lack of ideas, new ideas for new projects and new ways to improve everything that we have, and that's what I like to really focus on is that to encourage people to bring ideas to us. And part of the thing that we do and have been fairly successful in over the years is periodically we have community focus groups, and we invite the entire community. Sometimes we don't get as good a attendance as we'd like to have, but they bring in ideas, and that's what we need fresh ideas from everybody, not just from the board.
Okay, Steve?
Kind of on the same page, I guess. We've got a great tradition going here in Hawley, and we've always had a great tradition. We offer a huge variety of academics, a huge variety of activities. And what I really like about our programs is we bring our young kids in to the junior high program, and everybody gets a chance to play. It doesn't matter who you are or how you participate, but you get a chance to participate in that sport, which to me is huge, because some of these kids, that may be the only chance they ever get. The other thing is, as far as change, I don't really see anything changing. The success and development of these student athletes is more than just the athletics themselves. It's teaching these kids, life lessons as far as losing, winning, participating. So I like the way things go. I realize there's change. There is change that has to happen with each sport. But as far as the tradition that we've got going, I really like the tradition, and I just hope we keep that going. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, extracurricular activities are very important to our district and to our kids growing up. As far as it's not a proposal or something to change, what we do, like I mentioned earlier, when you're a member of the board, there's always things that change. Every school year is different. So when we have participation numbers that come out at any grade level, we determine whether or not we need additional staff to handle the certain number of students that we have out for the activity. So we're always looking at that. And our coaches do a very good job within the guidelines that we've provided through policy on giving the kids an opportunity to participate. So we're very proud of that. Our facilities, we addressed the need for more gym space in the last building project. The field house, if you haven't been in there yet, is a beautiful facility with a very, very tremendous asset to our community, not only for the district, but the community as well. And I want to emphasize the fact, too, anytime that athletic director Brett Schmidt, he comes to the board, we're very proactive. He says, okay, I have X number of students out for 8th grade girls basketball. We only have 2 coaches. That requires another coach. We go straight to committee. We sit down. We go through that. We address it immediately and get that position filled so those kids have an opportunity to play. Not just play games, but learn the fundamentals in each sport. Learn how to play the game, and most importantly, learn how to have fun. we put students first, and that's part of the deal, so, thank you.
All right, Paul?
I'm gonna agree with Steve, is we're really lucky, because I don't know if kids know how lucky they are to be in the school system here, because there are ample opportunities. It could be band, choir, FFA. It doesn't have to be just the sports. There's actually something, if they really want to, there's almost something for everybody if they want to participate. So with that, not just the academic part, the extracurriculars offer a lot of chances to learn life lessons. Like Steve mentioned, winning, losing. I'm sorry, not everybody's gonna go home a winner every day. We just have to make sure that everybody has that chance, has that opportunity. If they choose to, there's something there for them. And with the academics are unbelievable around here too. The grades are up, the participation in extracurriculars is way up. And I think we just have to do what we can to keep those opportunities alive and just keep turning out the well-rounded students that we are.
Right, thanks, Paul. You have to realize that I had to guard Superintendent Jensen back in the day in 9th and 10th grade basketball. That was my job. I turned out to be kind of a loser. He's now a superintendent, so see how that goes. All right, our next question has to do with band and choir trips. The band and choir students go on a large trip to Florida every 4 years. This year, the band and choir students will miss 3 days of school attending the trip, while the remaining students and staff are in school. 4 years ago, the school opted to have a spring break for all students and staff in lieu of the band choir trip. When the next band trip occurs, please explain if you think the school should implement the school-wide spring break for everyone, or have no spring break like this year. And Paul, you'll be going first on that one.
All right. I guess my feelings are that the band and choir is considered an extracurricular activity. Numbers are great. Just the other night at the concert, Ms. Grander said she's got over 300 kids out for choir. I'm not sure how many go on the trip. I'd have to find that out. But I guess what I'm thinking is it's an extracurricular activity, and if the kids aren't in school, then just like anything else they have to go for, the work should probably either be done ahead of time or made up afterwards. They shouldn't be punished for going. Again, we're looking to keep the activities, keep the attendance up. Not everyone goes on the trips. Not all the students get the chance, not all the teachers get the chance. So if they're gonna be back in class, like I said, I guess it's fair for the other ones that are able to go on the trip to either make up the time ahead of time or get their work done when they get back in a timely manner. Thanks.
Thank you. Eric?
I guess I kind of see this as a two-part question. One, should we have spring break? And two, what do we do with the band and choir trip? I mean, personally, I grew up in a school system that we had spring break every year. I would love to see Hawley implement a every year spring break program. I think it gives the kids and staff an opportunity to have much needed rest, especially for the high school and for the juniors and seniors that are about to make life-altering decisions through end-of-year testing, ACTs, making college choices. I would love to see just a period for some downtime. Kind of same thing for the teachers. There's a long span between January and the end of May where we have a few long weekends, but there's no extended break, and I'd love to see the community be able to be surrounded by just some time off. For the band and choir trip, I'm going to agree with Paul that it's an extracurricular activity, and if they want to go, then we should support that fully. I know last year there was talk about going to Hawaii. What a great opportunity. It didn't get past the board, which I think was a foul, but getting to go on a trip with your classmates to Florida, to wherever it happens to be, we should afford our students every opportunity to realize that.
Thanks, Eric. Scott?
I guess I'd start by asking a few questions. One, I probably want to know if there's any cost implication or or budget implications for not having the kids in school that day. The next question I'd probably ask is, if they do take that 4-day spring break, is that going to extend their school year to where it has to go past Memorial Day, or will they have to shorten their Christmas holiday? And then I'd probably ask, it sounds like we did a spring break 4 years ago, and for some reason, our administration decided not to have one this year. So I want to find out what the results were 4 years ago that caused them to change their mind to not have that spring break this year. But as a general statement, I would be in favor of a short break or a spring break for our students and our teachers, as long as it didn't extend the school year past Memorial Day, and as long as there wasn't any budget restraints or considerations as it relates to any reimbursements the school may or may not get.
Thank you, Scott. Wayne?
Well, I like the trip idea. I got the opportunity along with my wife many years ago to chaperone one of the trips, and it was an eye-opening experience, not only for me, but for the students. They learned an awful lot about responsibility. They learned about staying on time, getting where they're supposed to be, and still have fun. The time that's off for a spring break is a real complicated issue. It isn't just a cut and dried decision. It has to be a decision that's looked at very closely every time a trip is proposed, because every year is a different year. And we have to make sure that we can coordinate everything that needs to be coordinated to get a number of class days in during the constraints of the year that we're planning this. And so it's not an easy thing to say whether we should always have a spring break or never have a spring break. We need to really look at it closely and see how it fits in our schedule so we can educate the students in the manner that they deserve.
Thank you, Wayne. Steve?
This was a tough one for me because I can answer what happened in 2012. We did have a spring break scheduled, and we had all those storm days. So what ended up happening to us is we had to put it out there whether we were going to extend the year or whether we were going to extend the hours in the day. Well, the problem for me with the hours in the day is you've got too many sporting activities after school, and we've only got so many days to get our 171 contact days in with the students. And everybody likes, I'm married to a teacher, so everybody likes to be out by Memorial Day, we'll say. And when it starts going beyond that, it gets tough. It gets tough for the students too, because the students are looking for jobs and they're competing for jobs with other schools. So each year is looked at separately. This year happened to be a year where we could fit it in with an already scheduled one for a few days off, so it was just easier for us to go that route instead of actually having to worry about the storm day issue again. And we live in Minnesota. I mean, we've had a couple nice years now, but one of these years we'll have that again, and we'll have to make it up. And it puts the administration, it puts the staff, and it puts the board in, to me, a bad situation.
Thank you, Steve. Mark?
Really guarding Phil Jensen in high school was tough.
Yes. He was a little bigger than me.
Still is.
You said it, not me.
Band trips and spring break, they're very, first of all, I like to say that anytime a student gets an opportunity to travel anywhere for that matter is an educational experience to see the different types of people that live across our country, and it's a very educational trip for them. However, then you take it to the administrative / board level, and then we got to figure out how to make this work. Now, Mike Martin, the principal of the high school, develops our calendar, and that's a challenge because we got 2 holidays and the school year sandwiched in between. And like Steve mentioned, we get a few storms up here, and then all of a sudden we're limited. So the perfect storm happened on that last band trip where we were struggling to get the band trip / spring break in. So moving forward, we had to make this decision for over the Easter break, I believe it is. So we deal with that year in, year out. The spring break and the band trips aren't guaranteed every 4 years. That comes before the board, and then we analyze the situation and vote it up or down. That's not guaranteed. So we look at each of those things independently, and then we have to determine whatever factor affects it. And calendar's a big one. And with that, the bell rings. So,
Thank you, Mark. Paul? Oh, Eric, I'm sorry. Did you go
we're
already?
done.
Who hasn't done? Okay. The next question has to do with contracts. A select number of school board members, teachers, and support staff meet every 2 years to negotiate contracts. What are the determining factors in proposing a fair contract for the teachers, support staff, and the district? And we'll begin with Mark.
Yeah, it's another, I'm one of those select school board members, and it's a, let me give you a little lesson here. We got 3 employee groups within a school district. We have certified staff, non-certified staff, and administration. I serve on 2 of the 3 committees that negotiate those contracts. Okay, certified staff is our teachers, non-certified staff are our bus drivers, our paraprofessionals, et cetera, custodians. So, the big thing when we go into those things, and I've served on 5 EMH negotiation contracts over my tenure, and it's been very good. I mean, we've sat down with on both sides of the table. 1, you got to be willing to listen to the other side, and then 2, you got to negotiate in good faith. So you sit down, and you know you've been a part of a community for such a long time. You're sitting across from friends, and you're negotiating their contract for the next 2 years. So you go back and forth, and the issues are brought up. And my experience with that has been very good. In fact, we were able to negotiate the 5 contracts that I've been a part of prior to no threat of a work stoppage, no threat of going past the contract date. Everything we were able to work together as a team, both sides of the table, and come to an amicable solution. So, yeah, it's a big thing. Listen, negotiate in good faith.
All right, Paul?
I think one of the big things, you have to be willing to give and take a little. Like Mark mentioned, you have to listen to both sides. They have to, the people you're dealing with, the administration, staff, everybody has to realize too that we have a job to do, try and keep the numbers in check too. But short and sweet, you have to be fair. One of the biggest reasons, the high school, elementary, everybody around here, the office staff, one of the biggest reasons this school is successful is the people that work here. And we want to keep that the way it is. We want to keep the people here. You have to be fair. Give and take on both sides. Hammer something out that everybody can live with and keep the tradition moving along.
Thank you, Paul. Eric?
I believe the key component to this question is stated in the question, or the answer is in the question. Fair contract negotiations. By treating our teachers and staff fairly by the board, and the teachers and staff coming to the board in the negotiations and having realistic expectations. I don't think there's a person in this room that would disagree that teachers probably don't make what they deserve. But as a society, I don't think we value exactly what the teachers give us, what they give to our future. Would I love to be able to give teachers everything that they deserve? Of course. But I think as long as both parties come into the room with fair expectations in mind, especially in Hawley, that we will be able to reach fair terms for everybody involved.
Thank you, Eric. Scott?
I think you've heard it enough. It's fair, but having not sat through those negotiations, I guess I would probably ask for some type of labor market analysis that kind of baselines where our teachers and staff are at as it relates to other teachers and staff in similar sized school districts and similar sized regions. And then in addition to that, I haven't seen the collective bargaining agreement, and I haven't read the teachers agreement, but I would like to see what kind of verbiage is in there as it relates to tying some performance expectations, some peer evaluations, and some overall attitudes to that negotiation. But I think it was set up here first, fair and willing to go back and forth is
Thank you, Scott. Wayne?
Well, the bottom line is dollars. We have to make do with the money that we get in, and we have to figure out a way to make it all work. And I think we do a real good job of making it work. I've been on the negotiation committees pretty much my entire tenure, both the certified and non-certified, and I even was on the administrative committee too for a while. And it's not an easy thing to do. Most of the time things go really well. Sometimes things get a little tense, but we have a lot of respect for each other, and we know what everybody's worth. There's no doubt about that. But how do we make everything fit? How do we satisfy everybody, not only with wages, but with budgeting for textbooks and budgeting for buses, and all those things need to be looked at. It's a very unique thing to be involved in. I've been a member of bargaining units before myself, where I bargained for raises. I've been in units where I've been part of the administrative staff to deal with it, and I've been through training specifically for wage negotiations. And it's not a science, it's an art, and it is difficult, but sometimes it's fun.
Lastly, Steve, thanks.
I've never been on the negotiating committee, but I do want to commend the EMH and the board members that are a part of that, because I know that it's a very vital part of our school district. And those two entities seem to come together very quickly, very easily come to conclusions. I realize sometimes it's tough, but it's a give and a take thing. It's not one side gets everything they want, not the other side doesn't either. It's kind of a, you listen to both sides, and a lot of it is built on years of service and years of experience also. The biggest thing is financial well-being, like Wayne said. It has to fit into the budget. We can't just let things go, because you cannot deficit spend for X number of years and go backwards that way. And I think both teams coming together have worked very well together, and I really appreciate that.
All right, that's it for that question. The next question is, a school board member should be in tune with the school climate. How do you see yourself building rapport with the students, staff, and parents? How will you keep up on the pulse of what's happening within the Hawley district? Wayne, we'll start with you on that one.
I knew that was going to happen. Well, for years, I kept up on the pulse of the school district by listening to my mother and father. They have been very, very actively involved in things in this community, and they are a wealth of information. And sadly, my dad just recently passed away, and I won't have that warehouse of information to go to. But I've really, really depended upon listening. I read as much as I can in the papers about things. I depend on teachers and administration, and sometimes students talking to me about issues. I'm sure I could be more involved. Sometimes time constraints make it difficult, but I think that is, you really have to be available, and I try to make myself available. Sometimes it's difficult to find me, but I'm always there. Somebody will always know how to get a hold of me.
Thank you, Wayne. Steve?
I had a son graduate in 2012, and I had a son graduate in 2015, so they had a lot of friends, and got to know their friends, and of course their friends still have siblings, and I see those siblings walking down the street or in the school when we come for meetings, and I'm always asking them, hey, what's going on? How are things going? Is everything going good? Or they'll come to me. I try to take in a lot of activities. I love to go to the activities. I love to talk to people. And I also see the students there so that we can sit and talk about things. The other thing is I've always had the open door policy. I own and operate a business in town here. My door is open. Anything. I've had people come in and talk. But don't be afraid. The biggest thing, we don't know everything that's going on out there unless people approach us. I think we're very approachable. We won't know all the answers, but we'll know the right channels to get you to, or we'll get you to the right channels. The other thing is that I keep up on is school announcements. I read the school announcements every day. Either they post it or Terry and Kathleen actually email it. So that's how I keep up.
All right, Mark?
A real good way to be have your finger on the pulse of the school district is volunteer tackle chart for Coach Peter Nats and the football team. Because you get right in the middle of the student athlete and the coaching staff, and boy, you can hear some stuff there. It's all good. Thank you, Peter, for allowing me to do that. Big thing, go out and be a part of the school district. I mean, I'm a Nugget fan. I go to boys games, girls games, get out there, interact with the coaches, interact with the fans. I mean, nothing better in a small community. You can come here to musical events, concerts. I mean, entertainment value second to none. That's a big thing for me is to be a part of the community, is come out and enjoy what this district has to offer. Let's see, how do you keep up with within the district? That's it. I mean, being a part of the school board, you are the pulse of it, because every month you're getting updated on everything that's happening throughout the district. So, and with that, you have the responsibility to be a part of it. So I take that very serious, and go Nuggets.
Thanks, Mark. Paul?
We're actually lucky enough, Jan and I, to have both boys and girls in the high school building. So everybody sees us around, and yes, we're busy. There's a lot of times where we'll have to split to go cover all the activities, but that, to me, is the number one reason where you're gonna find out how things are. You're here. You're here for choir concerts, you're here for band concerts, you're here for sporting activities. I'm actually in the building every day from November, usually into March. I talk to the kids. I talk to the staff. I see the staff outside of the school. It's always a, hey, how you doing? Ask. Show your face. Show some interest. I actually have kids come up to me and start talking to me when they see me walking down Hawley. That's how you be a part of it. Show your face, show some interest, let them know you're there, and as Steve mentioned, everybody knows where to find me. Come and talk anytime you want.
Thank you, Paul. Eric?
I think we've kind of nailed it through the four previous speakers, but being available is extremely important. Available to the students, available to the staff, available to the teachers. I think you have to be able to listen to not only what all of those are saying, but as a board, you need to be able to communicate together, create an environment where you're inviting the teachers to come to board meetings, to not be afraid or be hesitant to say what's on their mind. So being available to all those is extremely important. For me personally, I have younger kids, but we stay very busy coaching. I probably know more kids in elementary school than I ever thought I would in my lifetime. And growing up in a small town myself, as you grow up, you get to know those kids, and you get to know those kids' parents. So just being available through media, through the phone, just coming to the door. I think if you have that open door policy, that you're going to get people that want to respond and that want to give you their opinion. So,
Thank you, Eric. Scott?
I think building rapport with the students is probably a lot easier if you have active students in school. Like Paul, I've got a son and a daughter that still remains there, and they're very active, so you just find yourself running and bouncing from activity to activity. Also, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of parent coaching with about 2 grades above where the kids are at and 2 grades below. That has really helped as it relates to those kids understanding who I am or who I'm about. So I think from building a relationship with the kids, it has to do with having active kids in school. I think building a relationship with the staff, hopefully that gets better if you're an elected board member. right now, I don't think the culture is there for the staff to speak openly. I did attempt to reach out to a few of you, and like I said, I think the culture is such as they weren't comfortable talking at this stage in the game. I do hope that changes. Our teachers and staff are our subject matter experts, and they are our frontline supervisors, and they're the ones that can best tell us really what's going well in the district and where we can find some room for improvement. So
Thank you, Scott. Next question is, coaches and advisors of athletic, academic, and arts activities may encounter situations when participants, parents, or community members do not agree with their decisions. How should the administration and school board address these concerns when they come up? Steve Olson's next on that one.
I gotta be honest with you, this one's an easy one for me because we have a policy in place right now and I truly believe in the policy. In fact, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right through it because I believe in every step this policy says. First step is there's no immediate contact after a game. All you're doing there is you're in the heated moment right then and there. In no uncertain terms should a parent or a relative approach a coach, period. The second thing is if you do have an issue with the coach, you call the coach, but you call that coach during school hours. Do not call that coach at home. Do not call that coach or talk to him walking down the street or anything like that. We all have jobs, and we want to do our jobs within the hours we do our jobs as a coach does. The next thing is playing time. As far as I'm concerned there, the playing time issue is strictly up to the student athlete. It is not up to the parent. It is up to the coach to make that decision. And the coach makes the decision in the best interest of each and every student athlete we have. They don't just make it because they want somebody to play a long time or they don't want somebody to play a long time. We as a board and administration hire our coaches with the best interest of our student athletes, and that's the way I feel on that one.
Thank you, Mark.
You know, we have to echo everything Steve said there. When you get a situation like that, regardless if it's athletics or anything for that matter, we go straight to policy because we can't start winging it. We got policy in place and that's what we gotta follow. Now, later down the road, we might have to change policy, but if a situation comes up, we gotta deal with what's in front of us. Now, with the policy that we do have, we can't deviate from it. Well, this circumstance is different. Well, no, we're gonna follow what our policy states. And if you've seen in the news down by the cities where the coach's father wanted his son to play quarterback and they got in front of the board and it was ugly. And we have policies in place like Steve mentioned. There's a protocol we need to follow and hopefully come to a solution. But just have to emphasize, follow policy, trust our coaches and our administrative staff, and don't deviate from that thing. Okay, if you want to change policy, it's a different date. But we deal with what we deal with today, okay? Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Paul?
This one's actually an easy one for me, actually, because been involved in something. It's, again, policies are in place. Policies need to be followed. You can't change the situation. You can't change. I know one thing we tell our kids, being a coach, is, especially after practice, something like that, the door's open. Come and talk. Hopefully it never gets past the point where it has to be, in front of the board, or it gets that far along. Hopefully we can take care of it right in the locker room. Again, come in, the door's open, you know where to find us. The only other thing is, even with the policies in place, the coaches are hired to do a job. The advisors, if it's whatever it is, if it's choir, theater, anything, they're hired to do a job also. Let the coaches do their job. They're hired to do a job. They're there to make the tough decisions. Not everybody's gonna go home happy at the end of the day, more than likely, but they're there to do their job. If it needs to go up the ladder with the policies, then that's why they're in place, that's why they're there, but hopefully it can be taken care of before it even gets that far along, but, let the coaches do their thing. Questions, let the kid try and handle it first, let your kid, son, daughter, whoever it is, maybe it's time for them to step up, talk to their coach. I don't think there's any of the coaches that are hired that are really very scary, but hopefully it doesn't even have to get up the food chain that far. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Eric?
First and foremost, I think we need to have faith in the coaches, advisors, athletic directors that we put in place. At the beginning of the year, the beginning of the season, we hire those coaches, we hire those directors to lead these sports or lead these events. So I think the board as a whole needs to support our coaches fully. If there's an issue that arrives, like everybody says, there's strict guidelines that are put in place, and I agree that we need to fully abide by those guidelines. If a serious situation arises, we actually have a policy for that as well. So it's not unheard of to need to go directly to the board, but I think the policy that we have set in place should work. Students going to the coaches, parents talking to the coaches or activity director during school hours. There should be a set chain of command, so to speak. So I fully support the policy that we currently have in place.
Thank you, Eric. Scott?
I as well support the policy that's in place, but I think there's a few other things that we can do that may help alleviate some of the concerns or some of the questions that some of us parents do have. One starts at that fall orientation, which is good to have, but I think a handout would be handy for the people in the audience or the parents to follow along through. I just think the visual aid portion of it would be beneficial, and it's something that you can physically hand and say we went through this thing. I also think, going back to what I said earlier, I think our coaches should own a parents meeting that happens once a month during their season, once prior to this month prior to this season and the month afterwards. I think that's an excellent time to show that you've got a pulse on their student athlete and your student athlete. It's a good time to talk about where you're at as a team or a group, as it relates to upcoming competition, as it relates to what's going right, as it relates to what's going wrong. But more importantly, I think that 45 minutes or an hour that would be there would give us parents a chance to ask questions of that coach in a setting that's, like I said, not right after a game or right after an event where emotions are high. And then I think I would utilize that group email. I know a lot of the coaches text kids, but I think a group email that's associated with each one of those activities or events that goes out to the parents as well. Nothing else would cause some dinner table conversation to show some interest and some follow-up.
Thank you, Scott. Wayne?
Well, I agree that the policy needs to be strictly followed. We work hard on developing these policies to protect everybody, not just the coach, but the students and everybody else. Being a coach is a tough job. I know I coached many years ago an adult girls softball team, and I will never do it again. But it's coaches coach because they love the game or they love the activity, and we shouldn't make it difficult for them to do that and continue loving that activity. And whatever we can do to encourage communication between the coaches and the students and their parents, I think we should really push for that. I agree that having team meetings with the parents should be mandatory, and figure out a way to get that done.
All right, thanks, fellas. Next question, kind of a budget question, but trying to keep the district up on technology, what do you suggest are the best ways of doing that? Eric, we'll start with you.
Well, I think with changing or bringing in new board members that have perhaps young children in the school system, you're able to identify the technology needs that we think we, at least in the elementary school, we do a great job with our computer lab. It's very up to date. Although I would like to see perhaps a school buy of iPads or some other technology that allows kids to advance on that plane. Because quite honestly, when I was a kid, we all shared a computer, and now every kid has an opportunity to be on a device. And requiring kids to bring devices from home, I don't think should be a requirement. I think as a school system that we need to teach technology to the highest level. I think as a school system, we should provide that technology. So I'd really like to see Hawley push forward with advances, either additional technology teachers. Quite honestly, it's the way of the future. So we need to embrace that and allow our kids to thrive in that environment as well.
All right, thanks, Eric. Scott?
Well, I'm about 5 years behind where the technology curve is right now, so I count a lot on my kids that are 13 and 16 to kind of help me out and steer me in the right direction. I do a pretty good job at evaluating software as it relates to upgrading technologies in my current role. I'm not no technology wizard by no means, so what I've done in the past that has been successful is we do have subject matter experts that are in that field. What we've asked is for them typically to bring 2 or 3 options to the table, present them, and we review them as a staff and determine what fits our budget and what fits our needs.
I think we're very fortunate in this district that we have some of the most tech-savvy employees anywhere in the area. And I depend on them to come to us with great ideas, and they have come to us repeatedly with great ideas for instructional methods that incorporate new technology. We have technologies that some of our teachers have developed themselves. That's new technology, and I'm very proud of that we have those types of people. It's important to stay ahead. We have teachers that are always wanting to go to seminars to learn about new technologies or how to adapt technologies in new ways. We have the opportunity every year to go to a school board conference, and an awful lot of time is spent on technology there, not only with vendors, but with listening to other districts and how they're dealing with technology. I think we have a pretty good grasp on technology. We try to stay ahead of the game that way, but like anything else, it's always going to be changing, and we will always need to stay on top of it.
Thank you. Steve?
As Wayne said, changing times, you have to change with the times. And we've got a great staff and great staff support that are keeping us up on the changing times. I do like the program that we're doing right now where it's bring your own device. Part of the reason I like that is because each kid operates at maybe a little bit different level. Some like the small ones, some like the bigger ones. It also becomes a financial decision as far as bring your own device on the school district, because again, with changing times, if you go purchase however many iPads or computers, everybody knows a year later, 2 years later, those are obsolete basically. So it becomes a big financial burden on the district. So again, to me, the bring your own device system is working pretty good, and I know our staff is working with students real well on that too.
Mark?
Yeah, technology, I think, Steve, when you buy it, the next day it's obsolete, but as long as our students have a foundation in reading, writing, and arithmetic, then the technology will enhance their education. Wayne brought up faculty members that have been innovative in, we had one, Scott Meese, he made his own whiteboard, his interactive whiteboard on his own. He took a Wii component and made a whiteboard or an interactive classroom board with it. That was fascinating. But social media, we've got to watch out for that. That's something that scares the living daylights out of me with what kids do on kids and adults do on social media. Predators are out there, we gotta be very cognizant of that. As far as integrating technology into our classroom, we're doing it. Are we on the leading edge? We're awful close if we're not. And again, I wanna make sure that the foundation our students are having is in the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic, because what if the power goes out? I mean, you've been to McDonald's and order something and the cash register doesn't work, and your order came to $10.05 and you hand them a 20 and a nickel, and the kid looks at you and goes, oh boy. You know, so you gotta be able, our kids gotta be able to problem solve and think if the power goes out. So with that, thank you.
Paul?
We are pretty lucky. A lot of the teachers have been to the classes, have been taking the classes, have been going to different seminars, and a lot of the teachers are up to date on the technology. I can't argue with Steve to bring your own technology is a good idea, but we just have to make sure that everybody has something available. We don't want to leave anybody out if, for whatever reason, it's not available to them. And I know, cost-wise, technology is always changing, it's never gonna go away. And I know there are, different venues out there, different corporations out there to maybe partner up with, where some of the newer stuff might become available. So I think that's one option that we have to keep an eye on and look at, because I know there's businesses out there that are willing to work with some of the different schools and keep everybody up to date.
All right, thanks, Paul. We have 2 questions left. This question has to do with having a school nurse. The question is, Hawley School District has 981 students. The National Association recommends a school nurse for every 750. Currently, our district has a nurse on site to cover all 4 sites: preschool, elementary, high school, and Spring Prairie. The nurse in Hawley is here 1 day a week. Do you think the school should look into hiring a full-time nurse? Wayne?
I hate to be a broken record, but it all comes down to money. That's one of the big issues. How do we balance money with the safety and health of our kids and the well-being of our entire district? I think right now the state requires a full-time certified licensed school nurse when they reach a population of 1,000. So we're looking at that rather closely right now anyway, unless things have changed. But I think there needs to be a cooperative effort. I married a nurse. I appreciate what they can do for us. I know I don't have to go to the doctor to have my stitches pulled whenever I fall and break something anymore. So it's important that we have good services provided for that. And they do provide services more than, or should provide services for more than just taking care of the kids. People were talking about the advantages on kids and things like that. Well, school nurses are not necessarily serving that purpose. School nurses are typically very specialized people that are actively involved in managing the health services of the district, and that means the well-being of the students and the teachers and everybody else.
You know, as Wayne said, it does take a special licensure to actually be a school nurse, which we are, and I'm going to reiterate a lot of what Wayne said, we are getting close to actually being mandated by the state to have one, because it is 1,000 students. So we're going to have to bring that pretty close, because I'm hoping we go over that 1,000 students. I'd love to see that here in the near future. But it gets to be a budget thing, so we're going to have to start looking at that closely now. We don't want to wait till we have 1,000 students and then be forced into it. So I'm sure it's something that we can look at down the road. And, you know, I know again that they have a special place in the school. We're very fortunate in our school right now that we have great staff that can take care of the situation. You know, we previously looked at co-oping with some other schools too, that just hasn't worked out. But again, I would say that we'll be looking at this in the very near future.
You know, have to echo what Wayne and Steve have already discussed. In a perfect world, if one was no logic, we'd have a school nurse. You take an issue like that, like any issue that comes before a board, it goes through proper channels. If there's a need, regardless of what it is, it'll come through the staff, to the principals, through the administration, and then it becomes a board issue. Okay, we need to take a look at this. So then what we do at the board level is that assign a committee, whatever committee happens to be in charge of it, and then we do our due diligence. We take the information, like Wayne and Steve had mentioned, that the state of Minnesota will have certain mandates as soon as we reach a certain average daily membership and number of kids. And then once we do that, then we gotta figure out how we're gonna pay for it, and then we're gonna find out where we can get a qualified person to do it. So regardless of the issue, if it's brought to us and it's easy, and we determine that the students, the need of the students, and we only want to put our students first, then we'll address it, committee level, that goes to a full board, and we'll figure a way how to get it.
Paul?
No, I also agree it's a really good idea. With the numbers climbing, it's going to happen sooner than later. And with that, we want to plan ahead a little bit, be proactive, see if there's some ways we can start working in the budget. 'Cause I don't know how many of you guys have been in either the high school or the elementary office. We have Laurel, Catherine, Terry, and Judy. There's always something going on, and a lot of times they're the ones that get the extra burden of fishing out from everything, making sure that the student gets what he needs, making sure the student gets what he needs. They've got a lot going on in the way already, and I'm not sure if they've been properly trained. I'm not sure if that's ever come up, if that's been an issue, but they've got enough on the plate the way it is. So I think this is something we definitely have to look at, and something that's gonna have to get done in the near future.
Well, I'm glad that Minnesota has a requirement that mandates a nurse at 1,000 students, otherwise we might never have a nurse in Hawley. I think it's vitally important that we take care of the well-being of our students. We have 500 students in elementary school, and 2 office personnel are in charge of being the primary caregivers, the school nurse, the pharmacy, on top of all their other duties. And that to me is not acceptable. And I understand that there's budget constraints, but when it comes down to the well-being of our children, we need to find a way to make it work. We took steps in previous years to hire a school counselor at the elementary school, so we're providing great care for the mental needs of our kids, but we need to do a better job at making sure that we take care of the physical needs of our students.
Thanks, Eric. Scott?
I would agree with what everybody says, and we know we're gonna have a nurse, a school nurse one day. I think it does read certified nurse, so I'd ask a few questions again. One, I'd wanna know if that certified nurse is an RN or an LPN, because there's a significant cost savings as it relates to that. I'd also wanna know from a budget standpoint, what we're currently paying to have the nurse that we have here one day a week. And then I'd like to compare that, or I would like to take that in relationship with what our secretaries are putting in, or how many hours a day they're putting in as it relates to actually dispensing meds and tracking all this. And, you know, maybe that budget gap isn't as big as we think it is. But yeah, I would, we know we're going there. We just need to know how many kids we're talking about as it relates to dispensing meds. We need to know how much time the building secretaries are putting in on this on a daily basis. We need to know what a certified school nurse is as it relates to an RN or an LPN, so we can make an important decision to move forward.
Thanks, Scott. Final question. How do you define and create success for all students in the Hawley School District? And Mark, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks everybody for sticking around for this riveting conversation, which we really appreciate the fact that you guys come out here and listen to us. I mean, that means you care about the community in our district, and thank you very much. Great success for our students, like I mentioned earlier, we want to be able to send out our students as well-rounded individuals with the foundation in reading, writing, and arithmetic. They gotta be able to think on their own. And then, are they well prepared to be successful after school? A good friend of mine, a teacher here, John Heinrichs, always uses that as a mantra for his classroom, is that he wants to prepare his students. And I believe a majority of our staff does want to put our students out into the community that are productive individuals. So that is very important to us. And then you ask how does a school board member create success? We don't create success. What we do is open the door to give the opportunity for our students to succeed. And what we mean by that, we need to remove the obstacles that lie in front of them and provide them with quality staff, tremendous learning environment and a facility that they feel safe in, and to give them the opportunities in the classroom. And that's the bottom line what a school member needs to do. So with that, I think we'll put out some pretty decent students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Paul?
We're pretty lucky. I'm not sure if everybody saw the paper last week. Mr. Martin reported MCA scores. I think the lowest one was 15 points above the state average in Hawley. Everything was above the board. Reading was, math was, English was. ACT scores, we were at or above the state average in every category. That means something right is going on in these buildings. Again, staff, unbelievable. We need to keep the staff we have, keep the staff moving forward, keep everybody going in the right direction, and we need to make sure that the staff has the tools they need to keep this trend going. Make sure they have everything they need to give the kids the education, to give the kids the opportunities to keep pushing forward and keep pushing out the well-rounded students that we have. Again, there's a variety of the extracurricular activities. Band, choir, FFA, all the different sports. There's something there for everybody. Get the work done in the classroom, you get to do the fun stuff too. Keep pushing forward, keep kicking out the students that we have been. Things are going in the right direction. Let's do what we can to keep it that way.
Thank you, Paul. Eric?
Thanks. I think success in school is twofold. One, success is a combination of learning requirements. We're a public school, we're funded by public dollars, and we're held to a standard set by the government, and we need to continue to hold that educational standard to an extremely high level. But on the flip side of that, I think our students need to be able to define their own success, whether it's academic success, success in art, success in music, success in sports. I think we need to, as a community, need to ensure that our students are given every opportunity to define their own goals, and then have the support of the teachers, the staff, the coaches, the community, and the school board.
Thanks, Eric. Scott?
I think we do it by offering what we already offer, and that's the opportunity to participate, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be in the arts, or whether it be in the athletics. What we need to understand is that what Eric said, individual people measure success differently, and we have to realize that as school board members, as parents, as teachers, and as coaches. But what we have to do, and what in my mind is most important, is we need to make sure we have the right people on the bus. We got to have the right administrators, the right teachers, the right coaches, who have the right passion for what they're doing, so they can make each one of them individual students or student athletes feel that they're respected and they're important, and what they bring to the table actually matters. And I think you'll see a train of success running out these building doors.
Thank you, Scott. Wayne?
Well, I graduated from Hawley in 1970, and for as long as I can remember, Hawley Public Schools has been producing very successful productive adults. And I think that tradition continues and will always continue, because as a district and as a school board and as administrators and teachers, everybody works towards that goal. And I'm very proud to be a Hawley alum, and one of the reasons that my boys are Hawley alums is because my wife and I came back to Hawley just for that purpose, to give our boys the best opportunity to learn and develop, and I think that tradition will continue forever.
Thanks, Ryan. Finally, Steve?
To me, success is in the eye of the beholder, and we've got a great staff that realizes that. You know, not everybody's success is equal. I mean, some students are here, some students are there, and that goes for academics, it goes for the arts, and it goes for athletics. And we've got a great staff that supports that, and it's just fun to watch our kids grow, and as they grow, they continue to succeed. One thing that I really look at is how I really define it is when you talk to students that come back to this area, you ask them, hey, how's college going? And they say, you know what, it's wonderful. We learned so much in school. Our teachers taught us so much as far as preparing us for college. And I'll use my son, especially, they're writing papers all the time. And his poor roommate absolutely struggles to write a paper. And Dylan writes that paper in an hour, you know? And that says a lot for our staff. And what we all have to remember is, you know, we're all here to prepare our student athletes or students for life after graduation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve. And again, thank you, candidates, for being here tonight. I think you'll probably hang out here for a couple minutes if any of you have follow-up questions or something we didn't touch on. And thank you for coming. Voting again, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. if you're in town in the community center on Tuesday night. And if you're in the country, I think you kind of know the drill. So thank you all for being here. Thanks.